Ladies, let's stop for a moment. Wherever you are, on a train, in a boardroom, on a film set, in a kitchen, in a classroom, in a crowd, or standing alone, I want you to hear this. You are enough. Yes, you. The woman who's been told to shrink herself to fit into roles, expectations, and frames too small to hold the fire in her heart. The one who's been taught to apologize before she even speaks, to smile while swallowing her dreams, to be soft, but never too loud, never too ambitious, never too much. Here's the truth: you are much, and that is your superpower. For far too long we've inherited silence. We've been handed down generations of know your place, dressed up as tradition. We've been asked to dim our lights so others don't feel uncomfortable. But I'm here to tell you, it's time to burn brighter. Every woman needs to know this. Your story matters, your voice matters, your existence is a revolution. Be loud about your dreams. Take up space like you were born to do it, because you were. Walk into rooms like you belong in them, and when they say you don't, build your own. If they call you too ambitious, wear it like a crown. If they say you're intimidating, remind them that power doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. Yes, there will be days when it's hard, when the world feels too heavy and your confidence feels like it's slipping through your fingers. In those moments, I want you to remember, strength isn't about never falling, it's about always rising. Again and again, be the first or the best or the boldest, but most importantly, be yours, authentically, unapologetically, and fiercely. You are enough. These three words carry the weight of centuries of silence, struggle, and strength. For too long, women have been taught to measure themselves against impossible standards of beauty, of behavior, of success, of sacrifice. We are told we must earn our worth, prove our value, and work twice as hard to be seen as half as good. But what if I told you that your worth is not something to be earned, that it is not conditional, not fragile, not up for debate? What if I told you that from the moment you were born, before you did anything or became anyone, you were already enough? This world has built walls around women, walls made of expectations, of rules unspoken and spoken, of judgments that weigh on our shoulders every day. We're told to be strong, but not too strong, beautiful, but not intimidating, smart, but not outspoken, kind, but not naive. We spend so much of our lives trying to fit into molds that were never designed to hold the fullness of who we are. We shrink ourselves to keep the peace. We smile when we're hurting. We say yes when we want to scream no. All the while, the world quietly applauds our ability to carry pain with grace, to disappear behind our duties. But the truth is, your power doesn't lie in perfection. It lies in your presence, in the way you show up each day, even when the world tells you that you're too much, sure not enough, in the way you dare to dream, despite the doubts and whispers, in the way you love fiercely, fight gently, and keep going even when it feels like the world is pushing against you. Being enough means letting go of the need to be everything to everyone. It means understanding that you are not defined by your failures or your accomplishments. You are not just your roles, mother, daughter, partner, worker. You are not just your body, your resume, your past, or your pain. You are a whole human being worthy of love, joy, freedom, and peace, just as you are. We live in a world that profits off our insecurities. It sells us the idea that we're incomplete, that we must buy something, change something, lose something to be worthy. But enough is not something you become after losing 10 pounds, getting that promotion, or being chosen by someone else. Enough is something you already are, right now, in this breath, in this body, in this moment. You don't need validation to make your life valuable. You don't need permission to take up space. You don't need to meet a checklist of standards before you start believing in yourself. The people who try to convince you otherwise, who label you as too emotional, too loud, too ambitious, are often intimidated by the power of a woman who knows her worth. Every time you choose to stand tall in your truth, to speak even when your voice shakes, to live according to your values and not someone else's comfort, you are rewriting the narrative. You are showing every girl who's watching that she doesn't have to shrink to fit in. She doesn't have to break herself to be loved. She doesn't have to hide her brilliance to be accepted. You are enough, not because you've done something extraordinary, but because you exist. And that simple, radical truth is what the world needs to see, hear, and remember. Every day, your voice and your story matter. This world often tells women to be quiet, not always with words, but with looks, with judgments, with dismissals that say, "You're too emotional," or "You're overreacting," or worse, no one wants to hear that. From childhood, many girls are raised to be polite, to be agreeable, to not cause trouble, to keep the peace even if it comes at the cost of their own truth. And so, slowly, we learn to silence ourselves. We start to second, guess our instincts. We swallow our opinions. We laugh things off that hurt. We minimize our pain. And over time, that silence settles into us, as if it belongs there. But here's the truth that can change everything. Your voice has power. Immense, undeniable power. It is not just sound. It is your truth, your experience, your identity finding shape in the world. And when you speak, whether in a whisper or a roar, you send a message not just to others, but to yourself, that you matter. Your story, with all its imperfections, struggles, joy, heartbreak, and resilience, is not something to hide. It's something to honor, because in that story lies not just your history, but your strength. Every time you tell your story, you're not just speaking. You're standing up. You're taking space. You're saying, "This happened. I was there. I felt it. I survived it. I learned from it." And that matters more than you may ever know. Too often, women believe their stories are too small to be meaningful, that unless they've climbed mountains, shattered ceilings, or survived the unthinkable, their experiences don't count. But that couldn't be further from the truth. There is beauty and courage in everyday stories. The mother who raises her voice at a parent meeting for the first time, the young girl who speaks up against bullying, the survivor who shares her truth so others know they're not alone. These moments are not small, they are seismic. The world needs more of that kind of courage, more women who are willing to say, "This is who I am, this is what I've seen, this is how I feel." Because when one woman speaks up, she makes it safer for others to do the same. She becomes a mirror for someone who's still searching for her voice. She becomes a light in a place where someone else is still sitting in silence. Your voice may not always be met with applause. In fact, there may be pushback. There may be discomfort. People may question your right to speak or the validity of your experience. That is not a reason to stop. That is a sign that what you're saying is challenging something, and challenge is where change begins. So speak, even when your voice trembles. Write it down, even if no one reads it right away. Tell your story in whatever form feels right to you, through art, conversation, action, leadership. Your story is your power. And in a world that too often tells women to sit down, your act of standing up is revolutionary. Don't wait for someone else to validate your truth. You don't need a microphone or a stage to matter. Your voice is valid simply because it is yours. And somewhere out there, someone is waiting to hear exactly what only you can say. Never forget, your voice is not noise, it is necessary. Your story is not a side note, it is a chapter in the greater book of progress. And your truth, raw, real, and beautifully yours, is a force the world cannot afford to ignore. Take up space unapologetically. From a young age, many women are taught to be small, not just physically, but emotionally, intellectually, and socially. We're told not to interrupt, not to challenge too much, not to be difficult. We're praised for being agreeable, for sitting quietly, for blending in. Even in the most progressive spaces, there's often an unspoken expectation that a woman should be ambitious, but not too ambitious, confident but not intimidating, present but never overpowering. And so, slowly and quietly, many women learn to pull back, to dim their brightness so others can shine. But taking up space is not arrogance, it is not entitlement, it is a declaration of self-worth. It is the audacity to believe that you deserve to be here, not in the background, not as an accessory to someone else's success, but right in the center of the room. It's about knowing that your ideas, your energy, your dreams, your presence have value, and then allowing yourself to fully embody that truth without apology. Too many women enter rooms and instinctively shrink. They hesitate to speak up in meetings, they downplay their achievements, they start sentences with sorry, but, or I'm not sure, but, as if their contributions require a disclaimer. This constant editing of ourselves is exhausting and unnecessary. No one should have to water themselves down to be accepted. Taking up space means walking into a room like you belong there, because you do. It means holding your head high not only when you're celebrated, but also when you're challenged. It means claiming credit for your ideas, asking for what you deserve, and knowing that you don't have to earn the right to exist boldly. You already have it. This isn't just about confidence. It's about reclaiming what's been denied to women for generations, the right to be seen, heard, and respected without conditions. When a woman stands tall, speaks clearly, and acts with conviction, she doesn't just affirm her own power, she challenges a system that has profited from her silence. You are allowed to speak with authority, you are allowed to be passionate and assertive, you are allowed to enter spaces, claim leadership, and express your full self without trimming away your strength. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, let it. You are not responsible for managing other people's discomfort with your power. Taking up space also means embracing your physical presence without shame. Society has long policed women's bodies, dictating how they should look, dress, move, and even sit. But your body is not a problem to be solved. It is a home, a vessel of experience and strength. Stand tall. Breathe deeply, move freely. You don't need to take up less room to make someone else feel better. The next time you feel yourself shrinking, pausing, second, guessing, stop, take a deep breath, remind yourself that you are here for a reason. You bring something unique and valuable, and no one else gets to define your worth. Not your boss, not your partner, not society. And remember, when you take up space, you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for every girl who's been told to be quiet, for every woman who's been overlooked or underestimated, for every voice that's still finding its way. Your courage creates room for others. Your presence becomes permission, so step into your power, use your voice, own your place at the table, or build a new one if none is offered. You don't need to be smaller, you don't need to be quieter. You don't need to apologize. You were never meant to be invisible. You were born to be seen. Strength is in rising, not perfection. From the outside, strength is often mistaken for flawlessness. We see the curated images of success, the polished speeches, the awards, the applause, and we assume that those who stand tall have never stumbled, that they've never cried on the bathroom floor, never doubted themselves, never failed. But real strength isn't found in the moments when everything is perfect. It's found in the moments when everything is not, and you choose to rise anyway. Women are held to impossible standards. We're expected to excel in our careers, nurture families, look a certain way, behave a certain way, and do it all with grace. When we fall short of any one of these expectations, we're quick to feel like we've failed. But here's the truth: perfection is a myth, a moving target, a lie sold to us so we stay chasing approval instead of embracing our truth. True strength lies in the decision to keep going when things fall apart. It's the quiet resilience of a woman who gets out of bed after a sleepless night of worry. It's the courage of the student who retakes the test she failed, the grace of the mother who forgives herself for not getting it all right, the fire of the leader who stands back up after being told she's not good enough. These are not signs of weakness, these are the fingerprints of strength. We often hide our struggles because we've been taught that vulnerability is shameful, that to admit pain is to admit defeat. But strength is not the absence of vulnerability. It's the ability to move through it, to say, I don't have it all figured out, and still show up, to say, I'm scared, and still take the leap, to say, I've failed, and still keep fighting. Some of the strongest women you'll ever meet are not the loudest. They're the ones who have endured things you'll never see. They carry invisible scars. They've fought quiet battles in silence, and yet they smile, they build, they rise, over and over again. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to wear a mask of strength to prove your resilience. There's power in the mess, power in the process, power in the way you dust yourself off after every fall and choose to try again. Let's stop glorifying perfection and start celebrating the beauty of persistence. Let's applaud the woman who says, "Today was hard, but I made it through." Let's support the woman who's rebuilding after heartbreak, after loss, after disappointment. Let's remind her that every step she takes forward, no matter how small, is a victory. Resilience is not glamorous, it's not always visible. Sometimes it looks like rest, sometimes it looks like therapy, sometimes it looks like asking for help or setting boundaries or walking away. All of these things require strength, the kind that isn't always praised but is deeply powerful. You are not defined by how perfectly you perform, but by how deeply you live. You are not weaker because you broke down, you are stronger because you stood back up. The world needs more women who are brave enough to show up as they are, imperfect, in progress, and unshakably real. So rise again and again, not because you haven't fallen, but because you refuse to stay down. That is the strength that changes lives. That is the strength that changes the world. Support other women. In a world that often pits women against one another, through competition, comparison, and criticism, choosing to support, uplift, and stand by other women is an act of rebellion. For too long, we've been fed the lie that there's only so much room at the top, that one woman's success is another's loss, and that we must outshine, outperform, or outdo each other to matter. But this narrative is not only toxic, it's false. We rise higher, faster, and stronger when we rise together. There is something extraordinary that happens when women support each other, not just with words, but with action. When we celebrate another woman's success without feeling threatened by it, we create a space where success is no longer scarce, it's shared. When we offer mentorship, share resources, or even just listen without judgment, we build bridges that carry us all forward. Every woman has her own path, her own fight, her own fears and dreams, and while we may not walk the same roads, we understand at a deep level the unique challenges that come with being a woman in a world that still questions our value. That's why our empathy for one another is so powerful. It allows us to connect, to support, and to remind each other, you are not alone. Support can be quiet or loud. It can be standing beside a friend as she takes a risk. It can be defending a colleague when she's being underestimated in a meeting. It can be sending a message that says, I believe in you, or choosing not to speak negatively about a woman just because others are. Every choice to support rather than compete is a choice to break the cycle of division and build something stronger. When women support women, we model a new way of being for our daughters, our sisters, our communities. We show the next generation that we are not enemies, but allies, that we don't have to choose between power and connection, that we can lead and lift at the same time, but supporting each other also requires intention. It's easy to say women should support women, but in practice, it means confronting our own insecurities, our own biases, and the internalized messages that sometimes make us view other women as threats instead of partners. It takes courage to cheer for someone else when you're struggling. It takes strength to share opportunities instead of guarding them, and it takes humility to learn from women who are doing things differently. We must also remember to support women who are different from us, women from different cultures, backgrounds, beliefs, and experiences. True solidarity goes beyond comfort. It means listening to women whose struggles you may not understand, whose voices may not be amplified in the spaces you move through. It means making room at the table, and when necessary, stepping aside so someone else can speak. There is no limit to what women can accomplish when they choose to support one another. History has shown us this time and time again, in movements, in revolutions, in breakthroughs, big and small. Behind every woman who succeeds, there is often another woman, sometimes seen, sometimes unseen, who believed in her, stood by her, or simply reminded her of her strength. So be that woman, be the one who shares her light, knowing it doesn't make hers any dimmer. Be the one who speaks up when another is silenced. Be the one who says, we can all win. Because when we support each other, we don't just rise, we build a world where no woman has to rise alone. You don't need permission to begin. There's a quiet, invisible waiting game that so many women are taught to play, waiting to be ready, waiting to be chosen, waiting for the right time, the right qualifications, the right approval. We sit on our dreams, our talents, our voices, hoping someone will give us a signal that it's okay to start. But what if that signal never comes? What if no one hands you a key, opens the door, or gives you a seat at the table? Here's the truth that too few people say out loud. You don't need permission to begin. You never did. The world has conditioned many of us to believe that we must earn our right to be bold, that we need degrees, titles, connections, or someone more powerful than us to say, yes, you can. But some of the most incredible things in history were built by women who started without permission, who began before they felt fully ready, who acted on instinct, vision, and faith instead of waiting for validation. There will always be reasons to wait. There will always be fear, doubt, and a voice in your head saying, what if I fail? But what if you succeed? What if the thing you've been hesitating to do is the very thing that will set your life on fire in the best way possible? You can't wait for fear to disappear before you move forward. It won't. You move forward in spite of it. Courage doesn't show up fully formed. It grows with each step you take. Starting without permission means trusting your inner voice more than the external noise. It means recognizing that your dreams are valid because you had them, not because someone else approved of them. It means taking the first step before you have the entire path mapped out. So often, we think we need a clear blueprint, but most of the time, clarity comes through action. Movement brings insight. You figure it out by doing. It also means accepting that you might stumble, you might make mistakes, you might feel like an imposter at first. But every expert was once a beginner. Every leader once doubted herself. Every strong woman once stood exactly where you are now, at the edge of something uncertain, something new. The difference is she took the leap. We live in a world that makes women second, guess themselves at every turn. Speak up and you're too assertive. Stay quiet and you're not confident enough. Take the lead and you're too ambitious. Step back and you lack drive. This constant contradiction is designed to keep you stuck. But you don't have to play by those rules. You can redefine them. You can start your own story in your own way. You don't need to be the best before you begin. You just need to be brave enough to begin. That bravery is what sets things in motion. It's what creates new realities, not just for you, but for others watching you. Because when one woman starts, others find the courage to start too. The permission slip you've been waiting for. It's already in your hands, it's written in your breath, your heartbeat, your desire for more. You are the author, the director, the force behind your own life. Start the project, write the words, apply for the job. Launch the business, say what needs to be said, leave what needs to be left. You don't have to ask anyone to validate your journey. This is your moment. You don't need to be more. You don't need to be less. You just need to begin right now as you are. So, to every woman listening, know this: you are powerful beyond measure, not because someone else says so, but because it is your truth. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Your presence in every room, every role, every dream you dare to chase matters. You don't need to shrink. You don't need to wait. You don't need permission. The world will always try to define you, limit you, mold you into something smaller. But your job, your right, is to break those limits and take up every inch of space you were born to fill. Stand tall, speak loud, rise again and again, and above all, support one another, because when women come together, not even the sky is a limit. This is your time. Own it, live it, be it.